In this segment, I will introduce you to the notion of proof by contradiction. It is a derived rule. We can derive this rule from other natural deduction rules we have studied so far. Suppose you have not pi and you're able to detect a contradiction, then you're allowed to conclude pi. So that's basically the proof by contradiction. Imagine like this. You have a not pi, you are applying some natural deduction rules, and you end up with a contradiction, which means, according to this proof by contradiction, you are allowed to say pi is true. So let's go ahead and prove this proof by contradiction. So I have this proof checker tool that we have been using. So I encoded this rule here, the same rule we saw, except that I have to use p instead of pi for this tool. My goal is to derive p. So let's assume not p. Now, what can I do? I can combine line numbers 1 and 2 to derive a contradiction. This is because I can eliminate implies from lines 2 and 1. Okay, let's check whether any mistakes so far. No errors so far. That's good. Okay, now we can go ahead and add. This is not introduction. We talked about not introduction earlier. This is correct because from not introduction rule, if you start somewhere and you end up with the contradiction, we are allowed to introduce not to the original assumption. The original assumption here is not pi. We end up with a contradiction. Therefore, we are allowed to put a not of line number 2. Okay. And now we can easily go ahead and eliminate the double knots using double knot elimination rule, DNE, to line number 4. Let's check the proof. Okay, the proof is correct. We are done. So what have we done so far? We started with the premise not P implies contradiction, and we were able to detect P using implies elimination and not introduction and double knot elimination. These three are the foundation rules we have used to prove the proof by contradiction. The rule proof by contradiction, it looks pretty similar to not introduction, right? But there is a difference. In the case of not introduction, you start with some pi, and let's say it leads you to a contradiction. Then you are saying it's not pi. This is basically not introduction. You remember the rule not introduction. So if you look at the position of not, the not is as part of the conclusion here in the not introduction rule. But here, the not is part of the premise. So that's the difference between proof by contradiction and not introduction from a structural point of view. All right, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.